start the Department of Council meeting, the council meeting, okay? This work session, regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that adequate notice of this work session, regular meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the municipal complex and transmitted to the officially designated newspapers a list of dates annually indicating that this work session, regular meeting, would take place at the Franklin Township Municipal Complex at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, June 13, 2017. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation by Councilman Rajiv Prasad.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. O God, the Creator and Redeemer of all the faithful, hear our supplications, and through thy infinite love and mercy, graciously grant us the strength and power in our thoughts and decisions to be for the benefit of all people at all times. Amen.
Madam Master Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Chase.
Here.
Councilwoman Francois.
Here.
Mayor Kramer.
Here.
Councilman Oni Jaka.
Here.
Councilman Prasad.
Here.
Councilwoman Robinson. Councilwoman Sherman. Councilman Vasanella.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Wright.
It is time for commendations and proclamations. The first will be honoring Nicholas Renda,
Right.
HRC Junior Commissioner, and Councilman Prasad will be presenting.
Okay. So Nick Renda has been our junior commissioner of our Human Relations Commission, and has served us for the last 4 years. Two? Okay. He's done a great job, and we've seen him grow. He was half his size when he came to us, so it's been great. But now he's moving on to bigger and better things. He's going to Penn State, and so, he's done well for us, and we wish you come back and stay involved with the community. So the commendation reads, whereas Nick S. Renda's dedicated service to this community deserves special recognition, and whereas Nicholas has served on the Human Relations Commission as its junior commissioner from August 2015 through August 2017, and whereas Nicholas is an excellent role model for young people to follow, not only through his participation in many civic projects, but also through his commitment to community service. And whereas the Township of Franklin has benefited greatly because of Nicholas's leadership and work with the Franklin Township Soccer Club family, Fun Day, and Top Buddy Soccer, as well as with St. Matthias Church, with the Summer Sunday SON group, and whereas the citizens of our community are proud of how Nicholas has represented our township during his tenure as a Franklin High School student and a member of the Human Relations Commission. Now, therefore, we, Rajiv Prasad, Councilman, and Philip Kramer, Mayor of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, on behalf of the Township Council and the citizens of the Township of Franklin, extend their heartfelt appreciation and sincere thanks to Nicholas S. Randa for his valuable service and dedication to the citizens in our community. Congratulate him on his graduation from Franklin High School and wish him the best at Penn State University. Congratulations. Say a few words and then.
One of the, one of the best responsibilities I have every year is to have 2 high school students as part of our group. And I can tell you that every high school student that we've had so far, they have gone on to higher education, and they have really helped us during the year with all of our negotiations and projects and everything else. Dick is no exception. In his 2 years with us, he has probably come to every meeting. His attendance has been 100%, and he has really helped us with situations at the high school and with the Board of Education. So we wish him all the luck in the world, and I hope he can come back to Franklin Township someday.
First off, I just want to say thank you. It's been an honor to contribute to such a honorable commission, and I look forward to taking the things that I learned and using them in my life after high school. Thank you very much.
Next, we have honoring the Dr. Martin Luther King Community Foundation. Alex, no need to sit down. Someone should keep count. Alex may be the most common person up here for proclamations.
Good things happen when Alex is there. This proclamation is actually a recognition of our Martin Luther King Foundation for scholarships for our deserving students and for what they do through the breakfast that they do. And it's been going on for 20 years. And this year they had a record amount of money that they raised. And so on their 20th anniversary, we want to recognize them for what they have done. And so let me read the commendation. Whereas in 1997, 3 community leaders, Frank Pepe, Superintendent of Schools, Eva M. Naj, President of the Board of Education, and Police Chief Daniel J. Levac, had a vision to create an opportunity to bring Franklin's diverse community together in honoring the life and works of Dr. Martin Luther King by fulfilling Dr. King's dream of unity among the races. And whereas those in attendance represent various members of the Franklin community, civic, religious, government, police, and school, with the diversity ranging across religious, racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic lines, and the ages span from elementary children to senior citizens, and whereas MLK Breakfast has become a true community celebration reflecting on the richness and diversity of the township, while providing scholarships for its Franklin youth. And whereas since 1998, 167 Franklin High School graduating seniors have been awarded scholarships totaling $177,400 based on their essay on how we can keep Dr. King's dream alive, as well as their record of volunteerism and community involvement. Now, therefore, we, Rajiv Prasad, Councilman, and Philip Kramer, Mayor of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, on behalf of the Township Council and the citizens of the Township of Franklin, extend their heartfelt appreciation and sincere thanks to the Dr. Martin Luther King Community Foundation for their valuable service and dedication to the citizens in our community and for keeping the mission of Dr. King alive. And with that, I'll ask the leadership from the board to say a few words. Ivanaj.
Thank you, Councilman Prasad. And also, thank you, Mayor Phil Kramer and members of the Town Council. It really is an honor to get this proclamation. We have with us several of our officers, Sergeant Sean Hebben, who's our first Vice President, Gary Rosenthal, our second Vice President, our Treasurer, Dr. Alex Karazi, and one of our trustees, Barbara Nickel. 20 years ago, when Frank Pepe came to this community as superintendent and saw our diversity, he felt that we needed to come together, so he approached me as board president and Dan Levac to start something that we really dreamt that would continue, and it has for 20 years. It's hard to believe. We came together with community leaders. We started the Martin Luther King Breakfast Committee. We had at the old high school 250 people. We cooked breakfast that day, and we soon realized we had to go to a larger venue. This past year, we had over 500 individuals come to the breakfast, and it is one of the most diverse, wonderful events. It brings people together. We forge new friendships, new partnerships. We get to know the beauty of our community, which really is a composite of Franklin Township and of the United States. But it's a way to keep Dr. King's dream alive. What he dreamt, what he said, his vision, is something that should touch all of us all the time. And that is what we strive to do. We also felt it was important for our young people to get support of the community and also learn of Dr. King's dream. And as Councilman said, we gave out to 167 students in 20 years, $177,400. That came from $5, $10, $15, $25, $50, $100, $250 donations of the community. And that's the message we gave to the students last night. 12 of them received $20,000 total. That was our vision for this year, our goal, in honor of our 20th anniversary. But that the students know that it is the community that supports them. So we want to thank the council members and the mayor again for your continuous support in coming and in donating, and most of all to our Franklin Township community. Without all of their help, support, and continually coming out and joining us, our students wouldn't know how to keep Dr. King's dream alive and also know that their community supports them in their education. Thank you.
Good evening. First of all, I want to congratulate the 12 students who won the award this year. And I also want to take the opportunity to thank all the businesses that they've supported this foundation over the years, and they continue to support us. Both businesses and various houses of worship have done a fantastic job, and some of them they've donated up to $3,000 or even $5,000 to help us to award the students. So I wanted to make sure that they are recognized for their support. This council always have been helpful, our teachers, our school staff, as well as others also have helped to keep this foundation active and growing year after year. And so again, congratulations to the students, and thank you community, thank you businesses, and thank you everybody who supports the foundation.
I just want to reiterate that our thanks to the board of the MLK Foundation, because it's become the preeminent event for Dr. King's birthday, the breakfast, and in central New Jersey, that's the place to be for most people. And secondly, it has made us the most diverse, integrated town in New Jersey. Jersey City gets the title, but they're a segregated neighborhood town, and so we have the mantle with North Brunswick to be the most integrated, diverse town in New Jersey. So thank you all for that, and great job for the foundation, and maybe you'll give out $40,000 next year. Thank you.
Next, we have Councilwoman Chanel Robinson presenting the PTSD Awards Awareness Month certificate.
Dr. Kramer, do you want to come join me
Yes,
as
ma'am.
a neurologist? As a fellow veteran, we're proud to present and read this proclamation, and I'm going to ask Team RWB representatives to come up to receive this proclamation. And as they're coming, I just want to share with you all that PTSD is not just for veterans. However, as a veteran and what I experienced in my encounter with Jules Daigle, who is the Central Jersey Chapter Director, on Memorial Day really touched me. We shall not forget those that came before us in wartime and those that were before us even in peacetime. But the epidemic and the increase of PTSD in those of us who are veterans is alarming. It's nothing to be afraid of. We're here to educate and let everyone know how they can support veterans in this endeavor. And after reading the proclamation, I'm going to ask Jules to say a few words about the mission of Team RWB, which is red, white, and blue, how they're enriching the lives of American veterans. Whereas post-traumatic stress disorder, known as PTSD, is a mental health condition that is triggered by a major terrifying event and is persistently re-experienced in one's life through flashbacks, dreams, and intense psychological distress. And whereas approximately 60% of men and 50% of women will experience at least one trauma in their lives. And whereas 5.2 million adults experience PTSD during a given year. And whereas without treatment, PTSD can lead to alcohol and drug abuse, reliving the terror, heart attacks, depression, dementia, suicide, and stroke. And whereas approximately 10% to 15% of veterans suffer from PTSD, and whereas raising public awareness of this condition could facilitate the discovery of effective treatment options and bring much needed dollars for support and services for individuals in New Jersey dealing with PTSD. Whereas a veteran commits suicide every 80 minutes due to PTSD. Now, therefore, I, Philip Kramer, Mayor, apologize, I'm reading verbatim. Now, therefore, I, Councilwoman Chanel Robinson, along with Philip Kramer, Mayor, on behalf of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2017 as PTSD Awareness Month in the Township of Franklin and encourage all citizens to join me in this worthy observance. Thank you. And I'm wearing my Team RWB band that she literally took off her arm.
So my name is Jules Daigle, and I have the honor of being the captain of Team Red, White, and Blue here in Central New Jersey. Behind me, I've got my athletic director, Marianne, and her faithful husband and partner, Howard. And what Team Red, White, and Blue does is we enrich the life of America's veterans, and we do that by giving our veterans an opportunity to get connected back to their communities through physical and social activities. Besides creating these activities, we generate wonderful partnerships with all kinds of other organizations seeking to do the same mission. And in fact, this weekend, we're going to be down in Wildwood with Operation Rebound. We're participating in a 22-hour ruck march, and that's to make people aware of the 22 veterans a day that commit suicide, and we're trying to raise awareness. And we'll be rucking with backpacks full of supplies for veterans that we're going to donate at the end of our march. Basically, we're looking to create opportunities for our veterans to get engaged. Sometimes it takes them a while, but knowing that there's something out there that they can do, I think gives them a little bit of hope and willingness to connect. Team Red, White, and Blue is approximately 70% veteran, 30% civilian. I'm actually a civilian team member, and when I first heard about Red, White, and Blue, it surprised me that they would allow civilian team members. But in order to be able to connect back to your community, you need the community involved. I'm going to toss it over to Marianne to say a few words.
Army here. So as Jules said, and just to reiterate how we connect our veterans with their communities, we do that through social and physical activities. Some of you may have seen that we will run around town in our Red, White, and Blue, and we ran around town with Old Glory. But we don't just run. We'll ruck, we'll do yoga, we'll do walks. We go bowling, we go socializing, we do just about anything to ensure that that veteran becomes more comfortable, not only with us, but with the community. So I'm hoping, like Jules said, we're the Central Jersey chapter. Her and I just happen to live here in Somerset. Howard and I just transplanted here from Morrison, Sussex County. And we're just really hoping that maybe we can partner with Somerset and get our website out there so that when the folks, our veterans, on your website or in publications see, oh, this is for a veteran, go online, join our chapter, meet us at Colonial Park, meet us at the Veteran Memorial here out front, and just become engaged and establish the relationships with us. Is that it? Yeah, that's good.
I guess it's appropriate to say Air Force here. But I really commend them for what they do and the veterans for leading the way in this. But, just because you're not going to war, don't think that you are immune to this. People in accidents and people with chronic disease, it's a little different than PTSD. It's not a single event. But that chronic disease can lead to the same kind of symptoms and problems. So this is something that affects all of us, the entire community, and you're doing God's work. Thank you.
And you will be getting an invitation to participate in our annual Memorial Day event. So thank you. Oh, and our Veterans Day that's coming up. So be on the lookout for that invitation. Thank you so much.
So next item will be public discussion, a couple of short announcements. Prior to public discussion, if anyone is looking over the meeting, they may be a little confused because there are two executive sessions in the minutes, and council who looked at in the agenda, council who looked at the agenda over the weekend may not have or would have missed this. It was changed today. We have one item on the consent agenda, which is now item 18 on your agenda, that I felt it was important that council members hear some background, and then it's an executive session material prior to voting on it. So we're going to briefly go into executive session to learn about that one item, come out to vote with the video still on, because I like votes to happen in front of, or to be videoed. And then We will go back into, after that vote, we'll go back into executive session for the other items we need to cover. The other thing I want to announce, because it will change the nature of the public discussion, I see people in the audience who I've seen here before speak about the chain between between Julie Court and Erie Drive. This Friday, Councilman Onijaka and I met with the superintendent of schools. One of the main concerns from the people that we've heard from the people on the Erie side was the location of the bus stop and the chain restricting them from getting to the current bus stop to be able to drive their children there. We had discussions with the superintendent, and somewhat facilitated by the great relationship we have between our council and our schools, it has been decided that next year, not for the rest of the few more weeks of this year, but starting next year, the bus stop that has been at the intersection of Julie and Deborah will now be located at the west end of Erie Drive, essentially right near the chain. So people who live in Somerset Mews will be able to drive right to the bus stop. Unfortunately, the people who live on Julie and Deborah will be able to drive near the bus stop, but then will have to walk across the chain area. This is an inconvenience to the people on Deborah and Julie, but it is, everyone needs to compromise, and I think this was a good compromise. I do have to caution, it is on a trial basis. One of the challenges is the speed bumps that are there on Erie and Reller are severe, and our manager is endeavoring to contact the management of Somerset Mews to see if that can be modified, or maybe we just need the buses to drive very slowly to mitigate the speed humps. But I thought that might be important to what people have to say in the public discussion, so I took the liberty of saying that first. So do we have a motion to open for public discussion?
So moved.
Seconded. Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of opening to public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are open to public discussion. Please come up and state your name and address. You are limited to 5 minutes. You may speak on anything related to government. There is no yielding of time, and you may only come up once. Anyone wishing to speak?
Hello, my name is Kelly Zare. I live at 18 Erie Drive. I would like to thank you real quick about contacting the superintendent and changing the bus stop. That is going to be helpful. And I also am curious regarding the speed bumps in our complex. That's one of the questions I was going to ask. I was wanting to know if private property has the same requirements as public property, such as, do they need to have handicapped access for sidewalks? Do they need to have the maximum height for speed bumps? Because those speed bumps are nasty. I've had the police department tell me that they're evil. I've had the rescue squad say, if you can talk to your landlord and get those removed, that's great, because if we have a person in the back of our ambulance, it's a severe pain for them, if they have back issues, to go over those speed bumps. So if you can help us out, that'd be great. So I just thought, since I know the township has rules on how big speed bumps and all can be, I wanted to know if that also went for private areas.
So the way it works is, well, no. In a short answer, no, it doesn't. And not the same rules don't apply. But that apartment complex and those speed humps were installed back in the 1970s. And what happens is, when things are done, just like with handicap ramps for ADA accessibility and all of those things, they're held to the standard of the code at the time that the construction took place. And then what happens is, if there are changes made, then it has to be brought up to the current code. As far as speed bumps, the township no longer permits speed bumps on private property as part of a site plan review, as part of our development ordinance. Speed humps are permitted, but not speed bumps. In this particular case, they're there, and they were there, and we don't have the authority under the current laws to say take them out, but as the mayor said, I'm going to attempt to discuss this topic with the owners of the apartment complex and in hopes that they can remedy it and make it more agreeable to the people who drive over them.
Thank you, because it has broken my husband's car once. Another thing is, regarding to the Team RWB, could you please let me know what their website is?
teamrwb.org.
.org. Okay, that's what I thought, but I wanted to check. And the final thing I had was, at the previous meeting, someone spoke that he had some issues with some primary things, and they said, let my record speak for me. Is there a place that I can get a copy of the record, or do I have to go through everyone's minutes and see exactly who voted for what and what everything? Or is there something that says, these are the votes that we've done and these are who's voted for what?
It would be in the minutes, but what record on what? On the vote on the chain?
No, sir. I mean, I know that, but in general. Someone at the meeting last time, I don't want to call names because that's against the rules. Yes, sir. He said that someone was making comments against him, and he spoke up and he said, let my record speak for me. I personally would like to know, how can I find his record? Other than looking at the minutes, is that the only way to look at it?
You can look at the minutes. If you had a specific question, you could Oprah a specific thing, but the clerk is not required to do research for you.
I know that there's places online, like for presidential elections and all that, you can say, or Senate and all that, they say, what do they vote and how do they stand? I didn't know if, since this township is small, if that, I would just have to research everything myself, and that's not been already done.
Yeah, I think those are done by extra governmental things.
Okay, I just thought I'd check. I figured it can't hurt to ask.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
And if you email me, then when we get any updates on the speed bumps, I
Okay.
can email back to you.
That would be lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am.
To comment on an agenda item that's coming up later, Resolution 17221.
Name and address, please.
Is this a time to comment on that, or is it later?
It is time, but name and address
Okay.
first, please.
Mary Lauko, Lauko. Address is 5 Norfolk Road, and I'm also on Environmental Commission. And I support the resolution you'll be looking at later, 17221. And just want to read a little statement for you. In response to the announcement that the President is withdrawing the United States of America from the Paris Agreement, over 1,200 mayors, governors, college and university leaders, businesses and investors are joining forces to continue to support climate action to meet the Paris Agreement. An open letter to the international community, as well as the corresponding press release, can be accessed at www.wearestillin.com. Excerpt from the letter. In the U.S., it is local and state governments, along with businesses, that are primarily responsible for the dramatic decrease in greenhouse gas emissions in recent years. Actions by each group will multiply and accelerate in the years ahead, no matter what policies Washington may adopt. In the absence of leadership from Washington, states, cities, colleges, universities, businesses, and investors, representing a sizable percentage of the U.S. economy, will pursue ambitious climate goals, working together to take forceful action and to ensure that the U.S. remains a global leader in reducing emissions. I have an excerpt from the news release. In addition to this statement, since President Trump's announcement to withdraw from the Paris Agreement, 211 climate mayors have adopted the Paris Agreement goals for their cities. 13 governors have formed the Bipartisan U.S. Climate Alliance, and 17 governors have released individual statements standing by Paris. So I support and encourage the council to vote yes to sign this same letter. It's an open letter to international community and everybody, stating that lacking leadership from Washington, it's up to states and local communities to act. So this resolution will authorize Franklin Township's mayor to also sign this letter, Doing so will publicly align Franklin Township with the international goal of reducing fossil fuel emissions that drive climate change. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Ms. Powell? Not surprised.
Linda Powell, 22 Bufford Drive. I know you guys have missed me. Sorry about that. I've been at other meetings. I just came back from a week away, and I had the opportunity to attend the People's Summit in Chicago, where people were talking about how we can take back our democracy from the few billionaires who are, the corporate billionaires who are trying to take over our country, and talked about issues like education, healthcare, jobs, ending racism, Islamophobia, having immigrants, changing immigrant policies so all our residents can have a easier time becoming citizens and documented, working for the environment, and as Mary stated, stopping the end of the expansion of the fossil fuel industry and climate change. And I came back to a week away and saw 2 online articles, one about the explosion across the river, which they believe is a gas explosion, and the other was an article on Williams saying that they were going to be good for us in Middlesex County, creating jobs and financially helping us, which we know is not exactly anywhere near the truth. And I just wanted to mention something that I had learned within the past month or so that came out at one of the Middlesex County Freeholders meeting, was that one of the explosions that happened in Pennsylvania a year ago, a little over a year ago now, had to do with that the gas coming out of compressor stations, which is what they want to build here, that big, unsafe, dangerous compressor station in the active dynamite blasting zone, is that the way it worked is that the gas that's compressed is going through at a faster velocity, a faster speed, which increases the temperature, which increases the chemical reactions. And of course, this gas has all the chemicals from the fracking in it. It's not just pure methane. And this dramatically increased the rate of corrosion in the pipes. And our pipes are old. They're 50s and 60s. And most of them were put in the 50s and 60s. And we don't know where the weaknesses are, but the fact that instead of taking years to corrode, they're corroding really quickly, and this caused an explosion which destroyed 42 acres in that particular pipe that corroded. So there are a lot of reasons why this is not good for us and why we have to stand behind it. And it's going to take a lot of us working together to stop these huge corporations that have tons of money and don't care if they lie to us about our health or safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Benjamin Guy, 35 Patton Drive. I just want to know, it might have been already mentioned. This really goes to Mr. Vonlucker. I was trying to find out, one is, do you have an update on where they are with the Middlebush project, as far as what's the update on the status and when they're going to be completed at all?
The Middlebush project.
The building that's there. The reason why I'm asking that is
the concession stand is being worked on and will be ready for the fall football season.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, the reason why is because one of the guys from, I think the baseball team, they asked me because I guess he was looking over there during the time frame, so I didn't have an answer to.
So public service needs to bring in additional power to the building, and they're doing that at no cost, and that's part of the work that's in progress, and everything is scheduled to be completed in time for the beginning of football season, August 1st.
Okay. The second thing is for the council and everybody else, if you have any other special projects that you're actually working on for the summer, really dealing with anything that has to do with youth, because there's going to be extended school year, school session as far as break with the kids this year, please promote that as much as you can. Make sure that you get that out to the community because, again, with us having the kids idle more for about additional time frame. It is necessary from the county level down to the city level or wherever, as far as wherever, to actually make sure that the kids are actually being helped this summer, because Parks and Rec can only do so much, but there's other programs that are out there, and if we can make sure that we're putting that out to the business owners, community leaders, or anybody else, churches or whoever else, to make sure that they put out that word as much as possible, because that extra 2-3 weeks that kids might be idle this might cause us more problems than was good. And I think this is a session that everybody pays attention to, older, younger, or business community as a whole, that we need to push that a little bit more, so that the kids don't get in as much trouble during the summer. I know that we're working on behind the scenes on other bigger projects, but this summer is real critical to the kids that are in the community, and I want to make sure that we're putting out the messages, whether or not it's through the local media, or Star Ledger or whoever else. Make sure that they understand that we need to keep these kids as active as possible during the summertime. And I think that was it for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening, Council, and good evening, Mayor. My name is Laura Williams. I reside on 25 Julie Court. Just to kind of lay it out, I stay on the corner of where Ari Drive comes to the stop sign and Julie Drive intersects. So I just wanted to paint the visual. So I just wanted to first ask the question, where would this new bus stop be located?
Essentially right on the other side of the chains.
Through Somerset Muse?
Would be in Somerset Muse, yes.
Okay. My second thing that I wanted to address is that I stay on the corner there, so I see a lot of the activity that's going back and forth. And I know some of the residents from the community has heard a motorcycle go through there, but I actually filmed a video of the motorcycle going through the barricade that's already up there, where the two chains are.
Between the ballards?
Yes. And so he goes through around 7 a.m. and he also comes back around 4. I don't mean to clock him, but it's just I'm home. I work from home, and so I happen to hear him coming, so I'm able to.
That might be useful information, Mr. Vornlocker.
So I just wanted to point that out.
So noted.
I wanted to point that out because being that the bus stop is moving to that location, I'm not sure if that gentleman is still going to be using that as his little escape route to get around the speed bumps, but the children's safety are at utmost importance. And so just to make sure that, this is being brought to your attention, so I'm not sure what can be done, but it has happened several times since I've been able to pay attention to it, so I just wanted to make sure I brought that up. Thank you.
Thank you. The ballards are of that distance to be ADA compliant so that a wheelchair can go through. We're also working on the sidewalk to make that ADA compliant, but unfortunately, Councilman Onijaka and I were there, and we actually noted, I bet a motorcycle could get through this.
The truth is, Mr. Mayor, they'll be able to ride on the sidewalk, too, if they really want to get around it.
Sure
So it
will.
doesn't much matter what you put on the street.
But those times and pictures of them,
I have the video.
that could be very useful.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Okay, Walter Howard, 148 Connington Avenue, Somerset, New Jersey. I'm here on behalf of Tyree E. Higgins. He's the applicant to have a deed restriction released. His attorney was here the last time, and Mr. Higgins had to work overtime, and he wasn't able to make it here. But I came to explain to the council there was some sort of statement made that I sold the property to a person a rich old tycoon to flip the property, and I'd like to ask Mr. Higgin to stand up. Can you stand up? He is anything from a rich old tycoon. He is a young man taking care of his daughter, work every day to provide for his daughter, and I sold the property to him to help him use his property the way I use the property. Someone helped me, council. They sold me property at a reduced price. That was the Township of Franklin, the council. In '86, you sold me property at a reduced price. It allowed me to use the equity that was built into that property along with the few dollars of my personal savings to obtain what they call a construction mortgage, which allowed me to build a home on my property. I did the same for Mr. Higgin. I could have sold this property to a someone that actually build homes and stuff. Being a third party, they too will qualify. But I decided to sell it to someone young, just getting started in life, to help him the way I was helped by the township. Now, these documents that you have in front of you, it will show that we will start with the smalls. If everyone would turn to the first document, this is a list of properties that had their deed restriction released. I have, it should be enough there for everyone. It was,
Glad your clock's running.
okay, it was shown that the Smalls, they made an application to have their deed restriction released. At the time the Smalls made that application in '96, the council didn't have a policy in place to regulate how deed restrictions are released. They released the deed restriction. It allowed the Smalls to make a windfall profit, and it allowed their property to be used for an actual additional dwelling. Now, in 1999, council decided they was going to change that, put a stop to that. If you go to the paragraph, the first paragraph under this list, it will show the council in 1999 created a policy that released deed restrictions for all third parties. Now, releasing the deed restriction for a third party says exactly what this document says. It's not actually increase the number of dwelling units constructed. And if you return to, that's not 5 minutes.
That's your 2-minute warning.
Oh, okay. If you turn to the first document, you will see Matson. There was a third-party applicant. If you return to the second document, De La Cruz, they too was a third-party applicant, and De La Cruz had 3 deed restricted properties. Your policy requires the council to release all deed restrictions for all third parties. And that is why the council had to release the deed restriction, all 3 of these deed restrictions for De La Cruz. Now, if you return to the next document, on the bottom of the right-hand corner, it will confirm that the council did release 3 deed restrictions, allowing 3 homes to be built. Why? Because that's your policy. It released deed restrictions, all deed restrictions for all third party. Now, if you return to the next document, it will show Williams bought their property from Baker. That means Williams is a third party. They did not buy their property from the township. That means they are a third party. The next document, Condon, he bought his property from Kavanaugh's. Again, a third party. And council, now in 1999 also, you created a second policy to address second parties. These are applicants that actually bought their property from the township. At the time, I was one of those applicants. And Bonton, he was the second applicant. Your policy that was created in 1999 requires that a second party deed restricted property be used for affordable housing, but not a third party. Mr. Higgin is a third party. Your policy released all deed restrictions for a third party. Now, if you return to the last document, it will show that Bonton actually bought his property from the township. That make him a second party.
You need to sum it up.
Okay. To close it up, like I said, you created 2 policies. One policy that released deed restrictions for all third parties. Mr. Higgin is a third party. I bought him, sold him the property, so that he can use the property for him and his daughter. He's not a rich tycoon like it was said. I'm asking the council to release his deed restriction. He doesn't have any adjacent property to merge with. If you do not release his deed restriction, he's stuck with property that he cannot use, council. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Renaud, do you wish to respond?
Yeah, just to say, council, there really is, the township never had a policy as to whether or not it was the original person who bought it from us or the second person or the third person. That has never been part of the township policy. The deed restrictions that have been released either didn't result in another house being built or resulted in an affordable housing unit being built. Yeah, so it was either Habitat or a COA unit being built. So
They were all Habitat.
right. So that really was the only exception to it.
In fact, that was what the gentleman who just spoke, when Mr. Howard was going to sell this property, it was to Habitat for Humanity to
Correct.
build an affordable unit.
Correct. So, and I know that I was here at the last meeting, and I don't think I never used the word tycoon, so I'm sure it wasn't me who said it, but I think the point of it was that this lot was owned by Mr. Howard. He sold it for $5,000, but it had a deed restriction in it, and the deed restriction essentially made that property not usable unless it was attached to Mr. Howard's property. So, in this circumstance, whatever circumstance Mr. Higgins is in now was created by Mr. Howard. It wasn't created by the township because Mr. Howard had for this property a resolution releasing the deed restriction when he was talking about selling it to Habitat for Humanity. And as I indicated earlier, and I don't know, maybe this is where it got lost in the translation, obviously $5,000 for a building lot in Franklin is a recognition of the fact that it's not a buildable lot because that's not what a building lot is.
They're about $70,000 a building lot
Correct.
in that neighborhood.
So the answer is that the only township policy that we've had, and I wasn't here for small, but I was here for every other one of these, I believe, except for the one that occurred when Miss London was here, all had to do with releasing them to allow the construction of affordable housing. So that I think that's the answer to the question. And of course, just to go back in history, these small pieces of property were sold with the deed restriction at substantially under market value because they weren't to be built on. They were to become parts of the adjoining lots, and I think the township specifically, if the township had sold them as subdivided building lots, then the value of them would have been substantially more than what they would have been when they were sold. So everybody who bought them understood when they bought them that they bought them with the deed restrictions.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Mayor, seeing no one else from the public coming forward, a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion. All in favor of closing public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public discussion is closed. It is now time for council committee reports and comments. We will start with you, Councilman Olney Jaka.
Mayor, I'm happy for the meeting we had with the superintendent of school. And the meeting was very, very fruitful. And I hope this will bring this chain issue to rest. And because that's given me a concern. And I think all my neighbors will live in peace and harmony so that all of us will work together and live together and enjoy together. So I think this will bring the chain issue to the final rest. And at the same time, Mayor, I have the privilege to recommend the presence of Mazi Arize. Mazi Arize is here. He's the husband of Mrs. Arize. He's here with us today. Mazi, I thank you for your presence here today. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Kimberly Francois. Sorry.
Okay. I was hoping you would have started on that end so Councilman Wright could have done his thing and I could have added on to that.
Well, but he would come, he's the deputy mayor, he would
So he comes last? Okay.
second to last.
Well, I won't do what I think that he's going to do, so.
Okay, good to know.
Because you're going to do your, okay, wonderful. So I wasn't aware you were going to acknowledge the presence of Mabel Arinze, who happens to be the landlord for the Somerset Community Action Program daycare center where we reside. So very nice for you to be here. Wasn't sure that you were, I thought you were here for some other issue, but welcome, welcome. I wanted to say that the congratulations to the Martin Luther King Community Foundation for 20 years of service to our community. Every event that you put on is a wonderful event. And Ava, our former board president, I think you so eloquently summed up the essence and the ambience of that affair every year. Although it's gotten bigger and bigger, even when it was small, it's just as big as it was when it was small. And I remember in 1997 when I was the mayor, that was something that I actually got up and did a little keynote speech, and we looked out in the audience and we were so proud to have that event, and we had no idea back in during that time that it was going to bloom and blossom to the event that it's become. So I wanted just to congratulate you all for the hard work that you've done to our community. It means so much to everybody. The people that go to that event, they look forward to it every year. It's done so much to service our youth. It really promotes the diversity of Franklin Township. And just keep up the good work. I hope that legacy will continue even after we're gone and we've been gone up to heaven. So thank you so much for your service. And I also wanted just to comment on the post-traumatic stress syndrome proclamation that Councilwoman Chanel Robinson gave. That really, I thought that was very touching. I think the facts that were given were very, very accurate. And I know when my son lost his leg, I suffered from that. I suffered from, even though I wasn't the one that was in the accident that got my leg torn off because of what happened to him. I had PSTT. So I think that it is a somewhat of an epidemic. It doesn't just affect, as the mayor said, people that have gone to war. It is certainly something that affects people with diseases and traumatic events, even deaths of family members. So I think it's good that we acknowledge that, and I'm grateful for the organization that was here today and the work that they do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Jim Vasanella.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just want to echo those comments that Councilwoman Francois made. Of course, the military being probably the largest and most relevant in that unfortunate battle against that disease, but there are so many other people in so many other walks of life that are affected by it. And thank you, Chanel, and the people who were here that left that are working with that. You know, the proclamations tonight and commendations really triggered a lot of thoughts. One of them being, for me, is to see that young man come up here and be acknowledged for the work he did. So I'm not going to just throw this out here and ask council to give me feedback or approval now, but I'd like to see personally, anywhere we legally are allowed to have one or two official spots on every advisory board, committee, commission, or any board, committee, commission, advisory or not, that we legally are allowed to have spots. And if they're not filled, they're not filled. But I think only right now the recreation and the human relations are the ones that do. But for me personally, and I know I've always worked in the mayor years back trying to encourage and make transparent and everything else with the committees and commissions and the boards in this town, I just never thought of the other one. So I'm going to ask, and I conferred with my colleague, Councilwoman Francois, who works on the administration committee, to work with myself and see if we can come up with a way to make that happen. Because to see what seemed to be a wonderful experience for that young man. And quite honestly, if you look at these committees and commissions and boards, it's wonderful and appreciated the service from the people. we need youth. We need younger people. We need people to start getting involved at a younger age. It just doesn't seem like it's happening as much. The youth programs are wonderful, and obviously the youth's involved with that. But these are real stepping stones for somebody's not just possible education and career, but their involvement and understanding a community. Although we have a few hundred municipal employees who handle it day to day, a community is going to make or break itself based on the involvement and the commitment of the citizens and the residents. So I would love to see that happen. Hopefully my other colleagues would, and we'll look into the legal and practical manners, and my goal would be to have that in place across the board, no pun intended, but for everything we can for the upcoming new year in January where we reorganize these committees. So sorry to spend so much time on that, but sometimes these meetings do trigger interesting initiatives. Other than that, I just want to acknowledge and thank, although we have, of course, our wonderful public school system in this town, which really is the backbone of education in this town with so many students. We also have a couple of parochial and private schools, one of them being St. Matthias School, and Sister Jean, who came from Philadelphia 6 years ago to was vice principal, then principal for the last several years, is being reassigned. The diocese sends people where they want, especially the good ones, and she's leaving at the end of this school year, which is coming up now, so I want to acknowledge and thank her for her service, and not just to the St. Matthias community, but that parish and the community's involvement there really reaches into many areas of this town. So I want to thank Sister Jean for her commitment, and that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Chase.
Most of what I have to say tonight will be on the council discussion item, the resolution on climate change that we're going to bring up shortly. I don't have any committee reports to bring. One thing I do want to mention, I think I've already said that manager has informed me that we have the conceptual approval from the Department of Transportation for our project to reline the Little Rocky Hill water main, which is notoriously prone to breakage and unable to provide a proper pressure. Tonight he's given me a schedule for how we expect to do this. Of course, there's as much, if not more, time to be taken in the preparation of the paperwork, but it's hoped that we will start in March of 2018 and finish by June 6th of 2018. Don't hold us to that exact date. I think we've had enough experience with bridges around here to know that these things sometimes take longer than projected, but at least we've gotten to the point of having a real schedule set up. I know the Department of Transportation is supposed to be doing culvert replacements on that stretch of Route 27, and this has been notoriously slow to take place. They started work last summer on the Carter's Brook replacement, and then all work stopped for a very long time. The latest announcement says they're going to restart work on June 20th, but there's been so many postponements, I have to take that with a good deal of a pinch of salt. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Chase. Councilwoman Chanel Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick announcement. On Friday, Friday, June 16, 2017, the Hamilton Street Community Police Relations Office will be giving out free ice cream from Dairy Delight, and pizza from Nicola's Pizza for the kids. And again, this is Friday, June 16, 2017 beginning at 12:45 p.m. when the students are released from school. And that the office hours for the Community Police Relations Office is Tuesday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., and Thursdays, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. So just wanted to lift that announcement, as well as this Friday, congratulations to all our seniors, the class of 2017. Franklin High School graduation will be this Friday at 3 p.m. at the high school. Congratulations to Nicholas on his honoring him as a junior commissioner, and I would wholeheartedly support. I think that's a great idea and initiative, Councilman Vasanella. If we're going to train up our next generation to take over, just having junior commissioners on some of these boards where allowable, I would definitely support that initiative. In other news, Habitat for Humanity Women's Bill Day was on May 27th. I did stop by one of the houses that they're building here in Franklin Township in the 4th Ward, and I made some connections between a local hospital and the Raritan chapter of Habitat for Humanity, so that their facilities and engineering department will donate hours and resources, meaning bodies, to do some of the carpentry work once the walls begin going up. And I encourage and ask anyone to come out and support the initiatives that are going on with Habitat for Humanity here in Franklin Township. I will be swinging a hammer or two. So I, again, encourage everyone to come out. The only other thing that I have a Housing Authority meeting will be coming up tomorrow, but I just want to announce and acknowledge the work of Miss Verhaeg. She did pass away on June 11th. Her services will be held soon, but she was one of the commissioners on Housing Authority, so I'll present more information as I receive it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councilman Chase and the mayor and I were at, and Councilman Onanjaka also, were at the iftar dinner graciously hosted by the Ali Mosque, and it was unbelievable to see the diversity of all the faiths and everybody coming together to partake and participate in the iftar, breaking of the fast and having a meal together. So thank you for that, Mr. Karazi. And Mayor and I and Dr. Chase were also at the ribbon cutting of the United African AME Church in East Millstone, and that was quite an event, and we wish them luck in their new building. And of course, the PTSD, we can never do enough for our veterans. My neighbor was a Vietnam vet who got affected by Agent Orange, developed cancer, and finally could take the suffering, and ended up taking his own life. So he was close to me, and so it's something near and dear, and I'd like to do whatever I can to help. Our Franklin Community Foundation, I thought Mr. Vasanella would have reported on that, but the Heller family has given 2 STEM scholarships to students going on to pursue education in science for $5,000 each. And they gave the award last night, and they will be coming to the next council meeting to be acknowledged by the council. We didn't have any admin meeting last week, and so that's about it. Now, of course, Dr. King is somebody very personal to me. I was in India when he came in 1959, and it was front page news, and everything I have in this country I owe to him. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be the America we are. Thank you for all your help in keeping his dream alive, and vision alive. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Deputy Mayor Carl Wright. Oh,
Oh, there he is.
you're blocking. Oh.
Had to go down to the corner and talk to the big guy for a minute.
Very important.
Just two things, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to start with the lease first. Home News Tribune, I happened to be reading it Sunday, May the 14th, and it had this nice article in it, this one over here. And what they talked about was Great Expectations. Now, we do give money to Great Expectations from our community block grant, but it talked about the women, pregnant, not pregnant, battered women, and I thought that it was a real good article about what they go through in life and how that money is put to excellent use because it takes care of them. It gives them a foundation for them to work on to move forward. And without those funds, women would have absolutely nowhere to go. They're on the street. They're back in that abusive home. They have no way to, they're pregnant. Well, where can I go to get that support from? And I thought it was an excellent article. I won't sit here and talk about it all day long. What I want to do is I thought about it, and it just popped up in my head. So next meeting, I'll have this for everyone to read, cut out the article. I'm going to place it on Anne Marie's desk, and all my fellow council members will get a copy because the next time they come around for community block grant money, I want to make sure this article is out there because they got me on the hook now. So that's one of my projects is Great Expectations. So I believe in it. Before I understood it, but I was hooked, but now, it's got that flavor in me, and I plan on moving this one forward, but definitely Great Expectations. Now for another informational plug. Here we go. This is for the Franklin Community Town Hall meeting, and it's on June the 15th, and that's this week, Thursday. 17th. Yeah,
15.
June the 15th, 2017, at 7 o'clock. And it's at First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens, and 771 Somerset, which is Route 27. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the violence that we have in Franklin Township. We've had a couple of shootings. We have a couple of situations where violence has occurred, and we need to get a handle on it. We need to understand where it's coming from and what we as ordinary citizens can do to help mitigate that violence. From the police department to the average citizen, what can we do? From block watch groups to, hey, I see some violence. I see something going on. One of my friends in the neighborhood saw an activity going on around 3 o'clock in the morning. Shouting match. It could have gotten ugly. 3 o'clock in the morning. Him and her. Could have gotten real ugly. But there's a situation where the people took care of business. The police showed up. New Brunswick and Franklin Township, since it was on the border, and things happen. If you don't become proactive in what you see, then other people aren't going to do anything because you saw it and you damn sure didn't do anything about it. So things just keep rolling along as a snowball. No one gets involved, and before you know it, it's Wild Wild West. Now, we as a council, and I won't speak for everyone up here because everyone has their own mind and they can speak on their own, but as for me, that's something I can't live with. The violence hits me because it's in my backyard. The violence hits me because it's 4 blocks from my house. We need to go out and actually stop the bloodshed, try to rein in some of that activity that goes on in the neighborhood. So you definitely have to come out. It's one of those situations where I don't want you to come back later on and say, Carl, I wish we could do this. Carl, I wish we could do that. And then I say, well, where were you? I didn't hear from you. Why didn't you show your voice? Why didn't you speak up? And that's the tragedy of the whole situation. If you don't come for your voice to be heard, don't come later on and tell me something 5, 6, 7 months later when you could have spoke up. So that's all I have to say. Sponsored by First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens. That's where we're going to have it at. Pastor Buster Soares Jr. Also by our police chief, Lawrence Roberts, the Franklin Township Police Department. And of course, if you look down the bottom, we have everyone else's little logo from FYI, Kimberly Francois, the Hamilton Business Street, Jimmy Vassanello is part of, the police department, of course, First Baptist Church, and the Township of Franklin. But more importantly, the first logo you see, Township of Franklin. And I want everybody to realize it's us, not anybody else, nobody else's town, Township of Franklin. So I hope to see you there. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Wright. Very important words. And Councilman Wright is the one who kicked this off. Clearly, he cares about the situation. For my comments, I went, I think it was on June 1st, thereabouts, to the ring ceremony for our girls' high school basketball team, who are best in the state. You're going to be, Councilman Wright's bemoaning the fact that he missed it. He's about to bemoan it just a little bit more.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And no. Gets worse than that, Councilman Wright. It was quite a great ceremony. I want to point out the rings were donated by Rotoclip. That's a company that council has at times butted our heads with, but they were true to the community, and they donated those rings. And I spent some time talking to them, and they were thrilled to do that. But Counselor, you have protected me legally at times. What I want you to do now is protect me physically from Councilman Wright, because there was a raffle there for game balls.
Shameless.
And guess who won? This is signed by all the players, and I won. And no, I'm not giving it to Carl, but I do want to see if it can be displayed at the library, or if not, we don't have a trophy case here, but maybe we can figure something out.
So they make really, really nice basketball cases, and they're relatively inexpensive.
I did come with a plexiglass one, but
okay,
that
yeah,
won't stand up to Councilman Wright coming in at
No,
night.
Well, he might steal it.
I have my ball. Thank you very much. I have my ball. Now.
So that was quite thrilling to me to win that. The other thing, another happy note, was that this primary, we had a new member of our polling community. The polling was, one of the new polling places was on Cedar Grove, at a mosque on Cedar Grove, 47 Cedar Grove. And I am thrilled that there's voting there. Now, a few people complained, and just to set the setting, we have polling at 2 Presbyterian churches, and we have had that for a long time. And there have been people who have said separation of church and state, maybe it's not appropriate to be at a church. It's quite legal to be there, but I respect that. And I did see one email to me that said it shouldn't be at either a church or a mosque. I respect their point. I disagree, but I respect their point. But there were some people who just thought it shouldn't be at a mosque. And to them, I think, as kindly as I can put it, you are out of bounds. I think it is glorious that it is at a mosque. I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it was brilliant of those who thought of it, because I've been to that mosque over a dozen times now. And I have to tell you, the first time I walked in, I was a little apprehensive. not of being in a mosque, but of, was I going to break a taboo? You know, I'm Jewish. I know on the Sabbath you shouldn't have a cell phone on, etc. Was I going to break a taboo? And I was received warmly and graciously, and I've now been there a dozen times, and I was thrilled. I was there for iftar the other night, and one of the people saw me and said, "Oh, we don't have to lead you anymore. You know where to go." And that just made me feel like one of the family. And that's the point that I think, I don't know, but I think that they are trying to get across at the mosque. Come to the mosque, see the mosque, learn to be comfortable in it, and maybe it won't seem like this strange thing to you anymore. They were very gracious. They served cookies, and they served coffee. There are a few logistical problems as far as stairs and getting to the polling area, which it was good that this was a primary, not the general, because they figured out some logistics of how to fix that. And they're just thrilled to death that they can provide this community service. So kudos to them. I think it's a terrific idea. And for those of you who going to a mosque is out of your comfort zone, go to the mosque and see it and expand your bubble. The last item was, there was a op-ed in one of our 2 online journals that, to put it briefly, challenged council to have more open government in the sense of more televised meetings. I have championed that throughout my political career, so I will admit I was initially a little annoyed, and then, as it often happens, I let that wash over me, and then I think about it and I think, well, what else can we do? So I thank that journal for starting that discussion. I think where we should start, and I did write an op-ed back that outlines this, where we should start is in 2 ways. Government is about small bites. If you look at our national government, it's got a bicameral legislature. It has the president. It has the Supreme Court. It is designed to be cumbersome so that government doesn't jump into things too quickly. So I do not expect every public meeting to be televised immediately, but what I would like to start with is our Historic Commission, namely because the ones we televise now, such as council meetings, planning boards, zoning boards, they are, and recently the library board, and what you will soon see, I'm working with Will Gilletier, you will soon see the Sewage Commission will be televised. These are places that spend money or make decisions that affect real things that happen in town, such as who's going to build where, are you allowed to put a porch on your house, or large amounts of money that can be spent. So another group that does that is the Historic Commission. If you live in the historic area, and full disclosure, I do live in one. If I wanted to change the roof on my house, I have to go before them in part to make sure it isn't and somehow upset the historic nature of the area. So since they make real decisions, I think, and I cannot make this decision alone, but I have a council who has always been very supportive of open government and very supportive of televising, and I'm hopeful that they will move in that way. After we discuss it with the people on the Historic Commission, I'm not saying that they would have veto power, but you never know until you ask. There may be some particular reason. I can't imagine one, but there might be one. So I would want to talk to them about that. Then moving towards televising other meetings, and it would facilitate itself for that, would be the large conference room, which you've ever been to the municipal building. When you walk in, if you were to take an immediate left, there's a room about the size of this area in front of me with a table about the size of this table, which there are many meetings at. And if we were to somehow put in a relatively easy-to-use video system and sound system there, then all the meetings that occurred there, we could start addressing whether they could be televised. I talked to this with the manager, and I know he met with our IT director, and he told me over the phone that give him a couple of days to think about how to do that. So hopefully we will be moving forward on that. So I guess the township manager should not go forward on the muses of a single person, including if that single person is the mayor. The way we work is by a majority of council. So just so for the manager's peace of mind, I would like, can we do this by head nods, manager? Would that be soon? So if the rest of council agrees in moving forward in these small steps, I would be most appreciative, and we can start to get those things done.
Question.
Yes,
Are you
ma'am.
proposing that it be televised, is pre-recorded and then uploaded or viewed at a later date, or as we do council meetings now live?
So probably, so my thought is not streaming. I think historic should probably be televised. Other meetings, maybe just available for viewing at someone's discretion. I think that would be, done as a case-by-case basis. Maybe some of them should be always televised. Maybe some of them would just be on file for anyone wishing to view. I don't want to make all those decisions tonight or even go into the debate of which ones or which tonight. That's, we can handle that at other times. But just start to go forward with that initiative and make Franklin even more open than it is now.
Thank you.
I have a question. So
Yes,
what
yes, ma'am.
subcommittee would vet that?
So I don't, you mean as to which ones?
Determine which vehicles or mechanism we're going to go forward with.
So to just go forward with, I think all of us could say now, let's address historic and we can hear from the liaison to the whole council about that. As far as changing the room, we could just see that. It could be reported back to council. It could go to financial oversight to make sure it's not too restrictive. But then as far as which ones are televised and which ones are just available, I suppose admin would be probably the one to handle that with the input of the various committees themselves. That's just my thought. I'm not written in stone. Oh, Councilman Chase.
Now, I, as council liaison to the Historic Commission, I can see a particular value there in that applicants often come to the commission and then find that they don't have with them all of the information that the commission then asks of them, and they have to come back again. So if they're televised, perhaps people, and very often it's a simple homeowner who comes to the Historic Commission, they can be better prepared, have some idea of what the commission is likely to ask of them. So I can see a real value there. I'm a little concerned about just how we'll set up in the large conference room to get everybody on screen, since they typically sit around the table. The commission, whichever commission it is, typically sits around the table with people at both ends, so inevitably the camera is going to get the back of someone's head unless we have less than full attendance and can leave that seat empty. But that's a technical detail.
So, right, so to address that, and probably the videographer will now focus the camera on the top of my bald head. I don't see this as a videographer-run system, just a static camera shining there. And it's more a video documentation of the meeting, as opposed to here we have the camera changes angles, and we have 3 cameras, et cetera. it's, you know, you could start getting really expensive if we start doing all that. We don't want to spend too much money, but more of a video documentation, and it might not catch every word, et cetera.
So my discussion with the IT director went
sir.
something like this. A fixed camera
You mean
affixed to the
you mean
wall.
after they said the mayor's crazy?
After, yes, well, we had many, many discussions about that on a frequent basis. A fixed camera at the end wall that would show all of the conference table and the seating area adjacent to it, with a microphone that's placed in the center of the table and a digital recorder that then could be the video could then be formatted to what was ever necessary to either show it as a YouTube video on our YouTube channel that links to the website or on the TV station. Remembering that there are only so many minutes in a day and only so many days in a week, and the more meetings that get put on the TV station, the less often certain meetings run. So all of those things being said, that's how it would be done. It's not very difficult. It would not be live. It would be recorded for those meetings that it was decided by council to record.
Councilman
Mayor,
Vasanelli.
thank you. No, this all sounds interesting. So, I don't want to throw any roadblocks up here, but we probably would have some basic policies, like if we are going to do this, the camera, it isn't shut off in the middle of the meeting. You know, it would be on from, what do they call, gavel to gavel. Obviously, you have executive session aspects of certain boards. So not to make it, it's not complicated. The complicated part was getting it here, and I know because I worked with the mayor, and I think Councilman Wright was very involved with that initiative going back 12 to 14 years ago. But, so I think a fixed camera, matter of fact, somewhere, maybe the mayor was talking about it, that's the sense I got, that it was there for documentation, because not only people that are interested that aren't on those boards, that people that are may have missed the meeting. I mean, there's so many good reasons, good uses for this, besides the general transparency is good. But my feeling personally is that I understand the powers of the Historic Commission is more so than some of these other, quote, advisory boards or other boards, the committees that don't have that power. We get ordinances, or we get requests for ordinances, for ordinance changes, for big appropriations. And even if they're not big appropriations, sometimes it's a small issue that costs little, but affects everybody. So what I'm saying is, if we're going to do this, it probably also, nobody could suggest that we're trying to highlight one committee or pick on one committee. It probably should be across the board for the documentation of it, understanding, of course, that you can't put them all on TV and probably isn't necessary. So I would just support wholeheartedly, but think we should look at it as somewhat of an all or nothing, so that it doesn't create debate and controversy.
So perhaps we could document all, and the admin committee and that particular committee would decide on which are televised.
I was saying, I think in the interest of moving this particular subject, what was suggested was that it be vetted through the admin committee, and I think that that's probably a good idea. That one committee in particular is charged with this type of discussion. There are a number of committees, Council. I just warn, I just want everyone to remember all of the different committees that you all sit on in various, positions that all of you have. It's a pretty heavy lift. We meet in a whole variety of locations. Yep. It's things that need to be discussed, not necessarily here, but begin the process with admin as a good start.
Right, and just to caution, it won't be every meeting. Ag meets in this room, they wouldn't be covered. Rec meets over at the community center. I think HRC meets in the library. So it's baby steps.
Exactly.
So unless someone, Janelle?
I know you said we wouldn't be discussing details or hashing out how, but would this be something that the IT committee would discuss, or you just rely
And
solely
the
on?
how is just that. It's so simple that there's really no reason to have discussion.
Okay.
This isn't a heavy lift.
It's not, I'm just.
It's a
and
camera,
from
and a
IT
recorder, and a microphone.
Right, and from a IT professional perspective, I think YouTube channel, just for the record,
Yeah.
YouTube would be the
That's
most
pretty much where this
low-hanging
most
fruit
of the
and
case
easy,
will
yep,
go.
path of least resistance.
I think the discussion that I had briefly with the mayor about this, and I think it's relevant, is that there are quasi-judicial boards that hear cases where decisions are made and approvals are granted or not granted. The other two primary boards are the Planning Board and the Board of Adjustment that carry out very similar charges that the Historic Preservation Commission does. So that was why that one board in particular was identified as one that should be, at the very least, recorded and on TV.
Okay, so is anyone shaking their head? No. I see no head shakes, so you
Didn't
can
look
take that
like it to me.
as a directive. And
Thank you.
I'll close this discussion with a discussion Councilwoman Chanel Robinson and I had. We'd welcome the county to record their meetings, and we would be gracious enough to show them on FTTV anytime. I guess we would need 3 other council members to agree, but we would offer you that service. And so concludes the council comments. Now for the township manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a number of different events coming up that I just wanted to make everyone aware of. The first, and I know that Councilwoman Robinson touched on this, the Hamilton Street Police Community Relations Office is got their weekly hours now set for people to drop in, where they will be, the office will be staffed. Additionally, the open house that's scheduled for this Friday is at 12:45 p.m. The reason why the middle of the day is Friday happens to be the last day of school, and therefore our Police Community Relations Office, which is the home for the Hamilton Street Neighborhood Police Team, will have pizza and ice cream from 2 local businesses, Nicola's Pizza on Hamilton Street and Dairy Delight, which is right across the street from the office, for all of the kids who come and meet with the officers at that open house. So I encourage all of the kids when they get out of school that day to go down there.
You might want to add they did it before.
And they did it last year, same day, end of school, and it was very successful. About 100 kids, 150 kids showed up. It was a nice time, and I'm hoping that it'll be a nice time again this Friday. Weather looks to be pretty good, so we should be in pretty good shape. So that's on Friday. On Saturday, we now have our farmers market in full swing. And we continue to get emails from other local farm vendors to participate in our farmers market, so it looks like it expands by at least 1 or 2 vendors every weekend, which is a wonderful thing. Last weekend, for the first time, we had a gelato vendor making homemade gelato with all local ingredients from our farm fresh milk and what have you in their gelatos. So that's a new vendor, and I know I get the emails. We got inquiries about a couple more this week. That's on Saturday here in the municipal complex at the corner of Amwell and DeMott Lane. Also on Saturday here in the municipal complex is the Household Hazardous Waste Day. If you have items that your garbage company won't take because it's considered hazardous waste, things like batteries or old paint or old pesticides or fertilizers, things that you need to dispose of, but you can't dispose of it in the regular garbage. You can do that. Propane tanks, rechargeable batteries, kerosene, gasoline, ammonia-based cleaners, all of those things here in our municipal complex, new location. This used to be held at the Sewerage Authority on Commerce Drive. It is now held here. We worked it out with the county who sponsors these events. We're able to host more and a larger area. It'll be back in the area by the Villagers and the Senior Center. So if you have hazardous waste to drop off, you can do that from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. here by the Senior Community Center parking lot. So that's this Saturday. Then we also have coming up a public hearing on the 29th of June it's the second public hearing here in the municipal council chambers on the Catalpa Park plans. The council is seeking input from the public on this. The final plans will be shown to council. It'll be an opportunity to review the plans, make comments, make suggestions on the development of Catalpa Park on South Middlebush Road in the Franklin Park section of the township. Not so good news, on the 28th of June, South Middlebush Road is scheduled to be closed between Skillman's Lane and Jake's Lane, really for the entire summer while the bridge at 6 Mile Run is replaced. This has been a long-planned project, and the entire detour has been worked out. However, I will caution all people who travel through that area on a regular basis that detours generally mean very little. If you are familiar with the area, work out your trips ahead of time to plan for what will obviously be a major inconvenience to the motoring public for at least 2.5 months. This is planned to be completed before our school children return to school in September. They return late, thankfully. There is an incentive to get this job done ahead of schedule. There is a disincentive to be late, so the contractor's on notice and hopefully will take heed and take advantage of that cash incentive to finish early and stay away from South Middlebush Road for the next couple months starting at the end of the month. June 28th is a Wednesday. That's when it's proposed to be closed. And
Anne Marie, are you going to put the 29th on our calendars? Is it the 29th, the meeting? Send us a meeting invite for that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Vasanella asked for 30 seconds.
There you go. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention an event the soccer league sponsors in his town, Soccer Family Fun Day, that I was fortunate enough to attend 2 Saturdays ago, and I just want to thank them for doing what they did, the volunteer effort, and that event was absolutely wonderful. And I don't know if any council people got a chance to go, but I want to thank them for what they did. It's just absolutely amazing event, and it was in Middlebush Park this year, and hopefully as well attended as it was, hopefully more people come next year too. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So the next item is council discussion item, and this is an item that was pulled off the consent agenda specifically to discuss, and it is about the township entering into the Paris Climate Agreement. I'll let Councilman Chase kick this off.
Well, this is a matter that came up in an environmental commission meeting that many mayors and heads of businesses, university presidents have signed on to say we're still in on the Paris Agreement on restricting greenhouse gases. So we said, why shouldn't Franklin be in on this also? I passed it to the mayor. He said, write a resolution, and I wrote a resolution right away. But I do want to say this has got to be more than just a resolution. I'm going to work to have township government do something at least every year to decrease our use of fossil fuel, go to more renewable energy, or simply be more economical with energy. 2 items, one outrightly the mayor suggested, and the other one he suggested, but I had also been interested in this for quite some time. The first would be that if anyone comes in needing a building permit for, say, putting solar cells on their roof or on on the ground in their property, that they be given the expedited status for the permitting. Currently, for any permit, if you pay extra, you can get expedited status, but the mayor's suggestion is that we give renewable energy projects expedited status without any additional fee. And the other is, I'm sure everyone has seen that when there's a utility project or anything which requires having a township police sitting there with their police car with the flashing lights on, they generally they have to run the engine of the car, even just at idling speed all the time, to keep those lights flashing. And if it's a day like today, to keep the air conditioning going, or if it's in the winter, to keep the heat going. But a lot of the time, they don't need to do that. So we want to look into, in fact, the mayor has already come up with a couple of websites for a way to keep those lights flashing without having to run the car all the time. You can either have a system which simply kicks the engine on if the battery is running low, or have an auxiliary battery to run those flashing lights. So I hope that we can look into this seriously and get this done, at least for those police cars, which are typically the older ones that are used for these project supervisions, what are referred to in township language as outside jobs, because I think we can very visibly save some fossil fuel use if we can do this. So I would move the resolution which is on our agenda.
I would like to second that.
So moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, so credit where credit is due. It was actually a Facebook comment about the outside jobs car that spurred me on, and once again, it initially angered me, and because of the way it was said, and then I said, oh, gee, maybe it's a good idea. And just so people know, I don't respond to the Facebook comments on Facebook, and I don't read them that often. So fortunately, my wife points out the nasty ones to me. I guess I just encourage people to be nasty. Councilman Chase, would you read the title for this? We already have a motion and a second, but we have to read the title.
Okay, so the resolution is to support action on climate control as directed by the Paris Climate Agreement. Did you want me to read the whole resolution?
No, is presented to Township Council for adoption, and it's Resolution 17-221. But you can read all the other, no, never mind. We already have a motion and a second. It seems that discussion is over. Madam Master Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vastanella?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
And I wanted to particularly commend Environmental Commission member Mary Lauco for bringing this up and pushing it forward. She was out of the room when we had the discussion, so I want to take this opportunity to thank her.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 10, approval of minutes. The following minutes are hereby presented for approval by the Township Council. The work session, regular meeting of April 11, 2017 at 7 p.m. The executive session on April 11th at 2017. The work session, regular meeting on April 25th, 2017 at 7 p.m. The executive session on the same day. The work session, regular meeting on May 9th, 2017 at 6:45 p.m. And then executive sessions on May 9th, 2017 and on May 30th, 2017. Do I have a motion for those minutes?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion or corrections of those minutes? I see none. Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Robinson.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright.
We are now on to item 11, approval of warrants. Warrants in the amount of $2,950,041.01 on June 13th, 2017 are presented to the Township Council for payment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second, or do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, questions for the manager? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Robinson.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright.
We are now on to the public hearing and adoption of ordinances on second reading. Ordinance 4202-17, an ordinance releasing, extinguishing, and vacating the rights of the public of a street known as a portion of Martin Street in the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey. The public has been noticed as required, and a public hearing is in order.
Motion for public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of a public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We are now open to the public on this item only.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
being
sir.
that no one comes forward, but can I get the township manager just to explain?
Not yet, not until,
After you close public session.
Seeing no one coming forward, Mayor, from the public, close the public portion of the hearing on this ordinance.
Seconded.
moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion on closing, all in favor of closing the public portion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carrying. Public portion is closed. Not quite yet, Mr. Councilman. Councilman, would you like to move the item? Say,
Want him to explain something?
no, we don't. He doesn't explain until we have a motion and a
I
second.
have a motion.
So you
Motion
Move.
to adopt
Approve.
order.
Yeah.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilman Wright.
Mr. Township Manager, could you just briefly explain that?
Explain a vacation of a street?
Yeah,
Or this, why we're doing this?
Right.
So this street is being vacated to facilitate a recommendation by our planning department, and I believe, and Councilman Chase, if you correct me, I believe it was the planning board, in reference to a proposed development of a site on Hamilton Street in the business district. This vacation of this street will make for a better layout of that particular development, and therefore this is at the recommendation of the board and our planning department to vacate it. It serves no other purpose to the township in being a street.
Thank you. It's just that I just want to make sure people would understand why we're vacating this particular piece, and we're just not doing it just to.
Right, no, in this particular case, it's to facilitate better layout of a proposed development.
Thank you.
We find lots of reasons to do this, that's this one.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please poll council on whether Martin Street should take a vacation.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Robinson.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright.
We're now on to B, ordinance 4203-17. Ordinance 4203-17, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the Township of Franklin, Somerset County, New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 236, Municipal Services, Schedule A, Somerset Gate. The public has been noticed as required, and the hearing is in order.
Motion for public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opening for public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We are now open for public discussion on this item only.
Mayor, seeing no one from the public coming up to speak, a motion to close the public portion of the hearing on this ordinance.
Second.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of closing public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Public discussion is closed. Do I have a motion on the item?
So
Motion
moved.
to adopt, yeah.
Okay, it sounds like a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
What exactly is Chapter 236, and what municipal services are we referring to?
He's answering.
Chapter 236 is the section that deals with services that we are required to reimburse private communities for. So they are street lighting and
So we're taking over the lighting of a
Right.
community that's been built on Route
Correct.
27,
Thank you.
Yep.
which
15 streetlights and .46 miles of road to plow.
I hate, but we have to do it. So any other discussion on this item? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka,
Yes.
Councilman Prasad,
Yes.
Councilwoman Robinson.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright.
We're now on to ordinances and on introduction and first reading. So ordinances are presented twice. A first reading basically announcing to the public that we will be later voting on the ordinance and that they can come to comment on it. So first is ordinance 42, there will be four of them tonight. First is 420417, ordinance to amend the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 50, Police Department, Article 1, Section 50-4, composition and titles. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, June 27th, 2017 at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. So this is about a Supreme Court decision which requires municipalities to declare in an ordinance what the various ranks are and how many people are in those ranks. Does that about sum it up? Okay. So it's really an amendment, just changing or adding those things to it. Do we have a motion?
Motion to introduce.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions on this? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka,
Yes.
Councilman Prasad,
Yes.
Councilwoman Robinson, Councilman Vasanella,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright.
Ordinance 4205-17, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, and State of New Jersey, authorizing the acceptance of a deed of easement from Onyx, is that how you pronounce it? LLC in connection with Block 507.15, Lot 2.01 Old New Brunswick Road, docket number PLN 15-00015. The foregoing ordinance is presented to Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, June 27, 2017, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex.
Motion to introduce.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions on this item? Councilman Chase.
Just wanted to ask this is to provide for having a sidewalk on
It
this.
is.
Along which frontage?
This is across the property that's to be developed between New Brunswick Road and Old New Brunswick Road.
Yeah, but is the sidewalk going to be along Old New Brunswick Road?
It will be along Old New Brunswick Road.
Okay. Now, I'd had a question about hoping that there would be a bioswale along that frontage of the property, but Mark Healy tells me that would involve the DEP, which is always a discouragement to trying to do anything good.
Any other discussion items? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you would be so kind.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka,
Yes.
Councilman Prasad,
Yes.
Councilwoman Robinson.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright.
Ordinance 4206-17, an ordinance authorizing the filing of corrective deeds in connection with the Cully properties known as Block 8, Lot 18.12, County Road 518, and Block 8, Lot 2501, Old Georgetown Road, to include required Green Acres language. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication, in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, June 27, 2017, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. This may sound familiar to council and frequent viewers. This is correcting some issues in the old ordinance.
Actually, Mayor, it is allowing, what happened is when we did this closing, we did not have the Green Acres survey.
Oh.
We got the Green Acres survey afterwards. We got Green Acres funding, and there's required language that needed to be in.
Okay. And Councilman Chase, are you within 200 feet of this property?
I measured it once on a tax map, and it was about 216 feet.
Ah, you're clear. You had a comment?
Because I've
You're 16
voted,
feet from
after all, on our acquisition of the property. But I have been working with Fran Varicali and the clerk on correcting minor details on this ordinance, which is why you have a new version before you. In fact, there's still a couple more minor details, but I think that they're things that the attorney will allow us to fix after introducing it. One is that Block 8, Lot 18.12 is actually closer to Old Georgetown Road, and Block 8, Lot 25.01 fronts on Route 518, so the addresses references should be reversed. And I believe that, in fact, our police department requires that every property, even a landlocked one, have a street address. The original version of this ordinance had street addresses for both properties. The one on 518, so far as I know, was correct. The one on Old Georgetown Road was completely incorrect. It, in fact, referred to my next-door neighbors on the other side, further away from the property. So if indeed, and I'm sure our manager knows whether this is true, if indeed they have an address for every lot shown on the tax map, I trust these can be inserted later.
There is a 911 address for every lot.
Yeah, that's what I meant, the 911
Yep.
address.
There is.
In case some hiker collapses on that trail. And incidentally, the purpose of that particular lot is to allow access to county-owned land behind it, and then to the bigger lot that comes in off Route 518.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, my short-term memory is failing me. Did I announce the time of the public hearing?
Not yet.
Didn't. So the foregoing ordinance, the foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with the law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, June 27, 2017, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. We have a motion and a second, and discussion. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
So the next ordinance is very important. 4207-17, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, authorizing the acceptance of a deed of easement from the Clifford Higgins Jr. and Julia Higgins to the Township of Franklin for the premises known as Block 5, Lot 2601, Higgins property. The foregoing ordinance is presented to Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing on final adoption on Tuesday, June 27, 2017, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
And
Seconded.
a second. So let me explain. This is a piece of property that has contaminated, that has been contaminated and is currently being decontaminated. Part of the settlement with that is the town, they will deed the development rights to the town. And that's what this ordinance is about. But there's more to it than that. This property happens to be adjacent to the property that Transco plans to put the compressor statement. There is a driveway on this property that would be very convenient for Transco to use, and they have asked the Higgins for an easement for that, and the Higgins lawyer has indicated that because we are getting development rights, the township would need to also give permission to that. So with the passing of this ordinance, this would codify that and give us a large portion of control over whether that easement would be done. Now, that doesn't mean they could never get that easement. They might use eminent domain to get the easement. That would require some work on their behalf. They might also acquire property in the area to get to the property and to their property or their intended property in another way. So passing this will make things more difficult for Transco, but it will not mean that the compressor station will not be built. But, well, I guess this is discussion. I don't think it will take much of me to urge council to pass this so that we are that little bit of a thorn in this project. Other discussion. Councilman Chase.
Well, I've been aware ever since this Superfund site project started that the township was supposed to get the development rights to which will ensure that the land continues to be farmed, which is what the Higginses wanted to do with it. They raised Charolais cattle there. And I think it's about 20 years I've been asking, when are we going to get the development rights? So this is really the conclusion of a very long tale. I mean, the initial discovery of the contamination, which goes back to an earlier generation of Higginses who had a disposal business and buried some inconvenient items on the farm. This was discovered about, I think, 1989, when a neighbor was refinancing their mortgage and the bank wanted them to have their water tested, and whoops, trichloroethylene in their well water. And so the township ran a water line in from Route 27 along 518 so that people in the neighborhood would not need to use well water. But this is another step forward in the EPA has been decontaminating the site since the middle 1990s, I think, as well as a site also originally belonging to the Higgins family on Laurel Avenue, known as the Hasty Acres Riding Farm. So we're gradually getting this site decontaminated, but the presence of the EPA facility in which they store some of the contaminants from the ground there in fairly close proximity to the proposed compressor site is another item with which Williams Transco will have to convince FERC that they're all hunky-dory.
Any other discussion?
No, just so that if they're forced to buy land from Trap Rock and get access through south of this proposed access, we would have to protest them and make sure that they don't do that, or at least make it known to them that the township residents are upset about that. So, but that's where I think our pipeline committee should be focusing on. All right, thank you.
Yeah, this other possible access would be further away from
Councilman,
more residents.
if I can, I don't really like to cut off conversation, but we have now just spilled right into an item that we were discussing in closed session. So can I suggest that maybe we discuss it in closed session and not discuss about what our legal alternatives are here in public?
Sorry, the
I was
agenda
addressing the
specified that this was to be
people who are protesting it, that's all.
Any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
Yes. We are now on to the consent agenda. Items A through V is listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone want to pull an item or question an item? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, can I just draw attention to one of them? And that's because this always comes up and we never talk about it. B, 17-223 is the insertion into the calendar year municipal budget for Chapter 159, the 2017 New Jersey Department of Transportation Municipal Aid Program. We got the $245,000 grant to pave Campus Drive. I wanted to bring that to your attention.
And just, Mayor, to comment on that, that is about 10% of our road repaving budget. So
it's a big deal. That's what I'm saying. It's a biggie.
In prior years, I think some of us, I know I have mentioned it, but thank you for pointing it out, Manager.
It's just that we got it and
get as much as you can while we can.
So that's going to allow us to pave Campus Drive.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
So now we are on to item 15, resolution voted on separately. Resolution 17-244, amend the memorials and honorary street naming policy is presented to the Township Council for adoption. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. So any discussion on this?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
we
sir.
needed to clean up the language on it, and it was pointed out to us that that language needed to be cleaned up, and so we did, and that's why we're passing it again, that's all.
Well, we're voting on it again.
Right.
Perhaps we'll pass it. Anyone else wish to comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor,
Sir.
I want to say, at first I was going to vote no on this, but having talked to the township manager, because I thought that this was a little too strict, but I haven't talked to the township manager about it, especially number 4, which gave the leeway in that everything should be judged on its own merit.
Right.
That part put this whole thing over the hump, as it were. So definitely, I'll be voting for this, just the way it is written. Thank you.
So, when laws are passed, it doesn't matter what council discussion is or what they think, it's what the actual law says. So I don't know. I agree with the sentiment of this, but I don't know that 4 supersedes 3. I've just handed it to the attorney. When you have a law, every part of the law is equally as important as the other part of a law. So,
Resolution, it's a policy.
I would want to be careful that your interpretation, Mr. Wright, is the correct interpretation. I had some difficulty with this as well until I had to read item 3 several times.
Right.
And there's an or there at the beginning that, I'll read it. Naming of memorials or streets should be used to memorialize township residents who greatly enhance the township's image, reflecting its overall values and community spirit, or, and then it goes on to make ultimate sacrifice and other things. If you don't read it carefully, it sounds like you won't, unless you die in the military, that's the only way you're going to get this.
Right.
That first part does say that, as long as you're enhancing the image, it sounds like you can get one. And so I'm asking the attorney, are we interpreting that correctly?
Well, obviously, that's what it says, the plain language of it is, it's not limited to just died in the military.
You want to speak in the mic?
I'm sorry. So it's clear that it's not limited to just people who died. Obviously, the first part of it is it's people residents who greatly enhance the township or who made the ultimate sacrifice. So it's one or the other.
So, coming back to that, in the township, our mayor brought it up. 4 cannot what the proper order would be. So, looking at this, each memorial or honorary street naming will be judged on its own merit. That means no matter what, including number 3, if I wanted to name XYZ Street in honor of XYZ person, and the council agreed on it, then we can move forward. Is that correct?
Well,
Right.
the answer is yes, and just kind of to state the obvious, this is a resolution that's a policy, and council always has the ability to, it's only a policy. So if they decided for some extraordinary reason they wanted to do something, or for some non-extraordinary reason they decided they wanted to do something, they could do it. I mean, it's just a policy, but in any event, Councilman, just reading this as a policy, it's clear that number 3 does not limit you from awarding this honorarium to anybody who you believe justly deserves it. I mean, it's not really limiting.
Right. That's what the township manager was explaining.
And that was the intent of the committee that formulated.
Right, because
Okay.
before that, we didn't have any guidelines to
Right,
adhere to. So now we set a policy of guidelines so that
Right.
when we have to make these decisions, we have something to reference.
Okay.
It's either or type thing.
Well,
Yeah.
Dr. Chase, did you?
Yeah, well, I read part 4 as really, in effect, referring back to, part 2 and the first part of 3, because obviously there's some judgment involved in deciding whether something is of local, national, or global significance that has positively impacted Franklin Township, and judging whether township residents have greatly enhanced the township's image. There's judgment involved, therefore 4 simply says, well, we judge whether somebody or some action meets these standards individually for each street in question. And, one or number 2, for instance, is what gave us Interfaith Way as Interfaith Lane as an alternative name for Cedar Grove Lane. So I think it's clear whether someone has made the ultimate sacrifice, but all of the others are matters of judgment by the council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just, a point of clarification that the admin committee would basically screen and, make the recommendation to full council, but it'll be the council majority vote that'll have the ultimate decision on it. So that's what number 4 is, and so we've got a process in there that we go through, at least the initial screening and meeting the criteria, et cetera, and then recommending to council what the majority of council can decide to adopt by resolution.
Councilman Vasanello.
So, Mayor, I don't really want to extend this conversation, so just what you brought up, Councilman Prasad, I was under the impression the administration committee's work was done with this issue as much as they were coming up with some guidelines and a policy for us to adopt. But going forward, if and when anybody feels compelled to put something forward, not that I'm against it, but I didn't think it goes through a whole process administration committee. But I don't know.
Somebody's got to make some judgment, and somebody's got to do the work, and it's just a question of division of labor and specialization that, you put it into one committee where they deal with it, and that's where the admin committee would be one that could deal with it and make the recommendation.
Like I said, I'm not against that aspect. I thought the administration committee kind of put it to bed with this policy recommendation, but I'm good. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
Yes.
Item number 16, old business, 2017 boards, commissions, and committee vacancies. Does anyone have a nomination? Seeing no nominations, we are moving on to 17, the first of our executive session. Again, we're going to go into executive session, have a discussion, come out and vote on something relevant to that executive session, and then go back into executive session, at which time we will come out and not vote on anything except to close the meeting. So I would ask the videographer to hang around till after this executive session, because there will be a vote.
And Mr. Mayor, I just want to clarify that this executive session, the purpose of it is litigation.
I will be reading.
No, but except that what's on the agenda is not correct. It's litigation.
Thank you. So, executive, resolution 17-245, authorize executive session litigation.
Correct. Cruz versus Franklin.
Okay, Cruz versus Franklin. Do we have a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved in, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
Council, I would, please, I request that you move expeditiously into executive session. Often we drag and then come out. You can do that for the second executive session, but I don't want to have the videographer have to hang around, so thank you.